3, 2, 1. Master Chief, you mind telling me what you're doing on that ship? Sir, finishing this fight.
Nice.
Hello, everybody. It's episode 117 of Sardonicast. I'm Adam from Your Movie Sucks. Hello.
I'm Ralph. I don't watch Halo.
Or play.
What do you mean don't watch Halo?
Or play Halo.
My favorite TV show.
Play Halo. Yeah, I'm Alex from IG.
I have no idea what you're talking about. No clue.
Yeah, I'm Alex from IG and former Halo fan. I'm going to just throw that out there instantly.
You can still be a fan of the old games. You can still call yourself a fan.
Okay, yeah. No, we'll get into it in more detail when we talk about this episode's special subject. But, man, it's not a good time to be a Halo fan. I'll just put it that way then.
I mean, the past, I don't know,
Decade.
10 plus 15, how many years has it not been a good time to be a Halo fan? This isn't a new thing.
10 years.
I don't know why did people get their hopes up? Did people look at this new show and be like, it's finally happening? Were people surprised by this? Like,
I guess. I don't know. It's been floating around, these concepts, these ideas. I don't know. Are we getting into the show first, or we got some news first?
We'll talk about Halo in just a little bit, but we're going to talk about some movie news first. Speaking of Halo, PlayStation, which is not Microsoft, they've announced that they are pulling access to purchased Studio Canal movies next month. So if you bought a film from Studio Canal on the PlayStation, their on-demand or content that you can download,
their media
to your
store
console
type thing.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, you've paid for it, but it doesn't exist anymore because you don't actually own it. You just had a license to rent it the entire time. And no refunds, sorry, is basically the...
But just for one studio?
Yeah, because of... Yeah, it's a contract expired or something, and they're stupid about how they set that up. So.
That was just like a contract thing. Yeah, well. Oh, well. Sorry. You lost your money.
This is the digital library thing, man. It's always... I think about that, like... Because I buy a lot of my movies on iTunes. It's just like, what if one day they do a similar thing? Like in a few decades' time or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like impossible.
Yeah, I feel like it happens a lot.
I'm a hacker man, and so I spend a lot of time figuring out how to remove DRM from like purchase things on iTunes. So I buy a movie on iTunes, and then I use like a couple different programs to just save it as an MP4 that I can move onto a hard drive. And then I don't feel guilt about it, and I can just use it however I want. Okay. And then I can also use them in videos and stuff. It's like easier, to remove the DRM. I should specify that the Variety article I'm reading is saying that it is customers in Germany and Austria. So I don't know if this is an international thing where they're removing that content. Either way, even if it's, restricted by region, that's a pretty shitty thing to do. It's a pretty shitty reality. And I love physical media. You can't take away that. Although maybe there's some content that you need to access remotely. Remember Blu-ray Live, BD Live? Remember that shit? Like, nobody remembers? Oh, I'm such a boomer.
Blu-ray Live? Well, did it have to connect to a network? Nah.
Okay, so yeah, when Blu-rays first came out, part of the way they were advertising it is like, this is like DVD, but it connects to the internet, yo. So your Blu-ray player, PS3, or just regular Blu-ray player would either have Ethernet or Wi-Fi. They would use that to update the player, but they would also use that for something called BD Live. And so they'd be like, oh, you buy the disc and then you'll be able to watch a live interview with Christopher Nolan about The Dark Knight. And it was like, I didn't do that, so I don't know if people pressed buttons on the remote to ask questions, or I don't know how the fuck that worked. But there's stuff like that. Movie. There's also certain Blu-rays where they had updated trailers, which is stupid. I hated it so much because if I have an old Blu-ray, I want to pop in the old Blu-ray and watch some old trailers. I want to know what was being advertised at the time. I want to know what they put on the disc. But there's some Blu-rays around 2009 where they were like, no, we'll have it download new trailers from the internet, and we'll advertise new movies in front of it no matter when you put the Blu-ray disc in. And I'm glad that didn't stay a thing. I'm glad that they stopped
Catch
doing
on,
that.
yeah.
But there's like a small window of time where they did that, and I was like absolutely furious because it was so stupid.
I feel like I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sucks. Being a consumer sucks. Being an artist sucks too.
It's just licenses. How many times have we complained about licenses on the show, and just like be it different countries or just release all over the world, and like the selection of movies on Netflix here is completely different from that in US than I'm sure that in Canada, and it's just like, how do you even keep track of all this? It's so frustrating and annoying. The internet, like it just opened the floodgates in a way that just doesn't make sense for this old way of like just distribution.
It's just incompatible with previous models.
Yeah.
Because if you find out people in Australia are watching something that you don't have access to for another couple months, you're probably just going to download it for free, even though you're willing to pay for it. There's a lot of people that are just like, okay, well, I would like to watch this thing that other people are watching.
Yeah. Or like with the whole streaming thing, you've got to go like, I don't know what your guys' process is, so if you don't have it, a physical copy or whatever, but I'll always search up, okay, like 12 Monkeys, for example. Where's that streaming then? And then like Google it, go to like the websites that compile it. Oh, it's randomly on BBC iPlayer in the UK. All right. Okay, we'll just watch it on there. But it's only there for a year though. So after the year, then I guess you got to source it elsewhere.
Yeah, you're on a constant hunt.
Go somewhere else.
Playing whack-a-mole.
Yeah. But that was like the whole appeal of the digital library to me, especially was when like a 4K release would come out, you'd get it for free. If they did like the Dark Knight trilogy or something, the 4K comes out, it's just automatically there. You don't have to pay extra. That's like really appealing to me. But then the offside is just, you can just pluck it away at any point. Or maybe they'll charge for the next thing, 8K or whatever. It's just a nightmare.
I would think that there might be because no matter what things say in their terms of service agreements, you could always make a case that something was incorrectly advertised anyway. So if something on the storefront page was described in a certain way, you could still make a legal case to sue if it's misleading, even if it says something more specific in the terms of service agreements. I believe that's the case anyway. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. And so if I were a lawyer looking at this, I would be really hung up on the difference between rent and buy, or rent and own, because those are two different price points. And I have to assume, I'm pretty sure I looked through the PlayStation video store before, and rent would be like, rent it for 24 hours, and then own or buy would be like, oh, keep it in your library. And it's like, okay, well, if you select the buy option and it's just an extended rental, then you should maybe reflect that in its description. You should say this is an extended rental if you're not really buying it, right? So I don't know. You're not buying it, you're buying a license to use it, and they can revoke it at any point in time. I think that's misleading, but are people going to file a class action lawsuit where everybody gets $1 or some shit?
Right, it's not enough money to be upset about. Would you lose out on a couple bucks? yeah, it's not worth suing. Yeah,
the lawyers win and everybody else, So yeah, correct me if I misinterpreted how that works in the comments section. But
I don't know. It just sucks. Yeah.
Don't fucking guess. Don't be a guesser. Don't correct me unless you're an expert. Okay.
Sucks.
Unless you're an actual copyright lawyer. It's not even copyright, is it? That would be a
what is it? Digital license, right?
No. It would be like a business practices lawsuit, not necessarily a copyright. Like a misleading. I don't remember the terminology, but I'm not going to pretend.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So this is I guess just kind of a small example of something that has been happening. iTunes has pulled, certain movies from certain regions as well. Even on streaming services where you don't pay to download a certain title, there's been censorship where they've removed episodes of TV shows or cut out parts.
True.
Have edited things in post. I like physical media, and I like media preservation. I like art preservation.
Yeah, we're in a weird space, especially with this came into my mind with these kind of 360, Xbox 360 era games that had like online components just started shutting down.
Yeah.
Like a few years ago. Like, yeah, we're not going to run the servers anymore.
Well, if you have a Steam Deck and you're emulating, which I would never suggest to do, but I'm saying it as a fact, if you have emulation software, then that might be the only way to actually experience previous games. Except the online components, obviously.
In some ways, yeah. Unless you have a physical copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PT, bros.
Which, there's some games were only online.
Yeah.
Some games were only digital. Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. Like those games with online components, the physical like disc, when you put it in now for these like server disconnected games, like they're just defunct products. They're just nothing.
Yeah.
It's just like a piece of metal in a box.
There's another piece of movie news that we've already kind of segued into. Ubisoft or Ubisoft. I really don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce it.
I always say Ubisoft myself, but
I say Ubisoft.
They're French, right?
I say Ubisoft because they're gross.
Agreed.
They put out an announcement that they're shutting down multiplayer and online services for 15 games in September 2022. Okay, so this is on their official website. Decommissioning of online services, September 2022. Closing the online services for some older games allows us to focus our resources on delivering great experiences for players who are playing newer or more popular titles. To help us achieve this, a number of older titles will be added to our list of decommissioned online services on September 1st, 2022. Below, you'll find a detailed breakdown for the effects of this new round of decommissions per platform. So, some of them just say like you will be unable to play multiplayer, things like that, which seems pretty standard.
Yeah.
Some of them are much worse, and they say so. Assassin's Creed 3 2012 release
Assassin's
on
Creed.
PC. They say additionally, the installation and access to downloadable content will be unavailable. It's like what? Excuse me?
Oh, they won't even host that. It's not even a network thing.
Yeah. What if you already paid for it and you want to download it again into your library? Like, what if you have a new computer and you wiped your old one?
What if I just bought these games? Like, kind of like how I just bought a bunch of Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah. You got to beat them before September,
Those
Ralph.
games, I don't feel like they're that old. Assassin's Creed.
Well, this one says 2012 release.
Yeah, Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed 3, Far Cry 3. Yeah. That's crazy. The fuck? Yeah, so I gotta play multiplayer soon.
So yeah, not being able to access DLC, not being able to get like the full experience of the game, supposedly, depending on what kind of DLC.
Yeah. Well, maybe no one plays it. That's always the thing with these, like, any game that's a couple years old, you can't find any people to play it with. So maybe that's why they're shutting it down. Who fucking knows?
Ghost Recon Future Soldier says, to play the solo campaign, you'll have to set your console into offline mode.
Wow.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow. Rayman Legends, you will be unable to link Ubisoft accounts in-game or use online features. So no more online co-op.
It's a great game as well, that one.
Yeah.
Well, just a lot of these games, I remember. I don't know if they do it as much anymore. They were like single player games, but they had all this online shit. Like,
oh yeah, it's just a bunch of DRM bullshit.
Like you needed to be online to play a single player game. Yeah. So like you can't even access a game that technically doesn't even require like online or multiplayer. You could play the single player if you.
EA's done that a bunch.
Yeah, I'm sure they have. Yeah.
It was like the new Sims game or something. It was like Sim City. Like, you couldn't play single player unless you were connected to the internet. It's like, okay, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus. In their quest to supposedly stop piracy, they're ensuring that pirates are offering a better product for free. They're making the paid version worse to play.
Yeah.
That's just how this shit works. So
it's just like multiplayer in games, like in that way, I feel is kind of new. And we're seeing like like after 10 years, like what do you do with like the servers, like when no one's playing the game anymore? They just like delete them. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And now like I feel like game companies, they try a little more like to elongate the multiplayer component. So like GTA 5 online or Rainbow Six, like those games have been going for a long time. Like the online component's still very strong for those. Like, I don't think those will go away anytime soon. They could eventually. But like Red Dead, I don't know what's going on with that. That'll probably shut down like at the same fucking rate at this point. Because no one plays that
The problem
shit.
is, like, if they stop doing it, fans of the game will, try to keep things going. Like, you can have people doing that shit for free, but then they get cease and desist letters,
Mm-hmm.
So there's people that would just be willing to keep these things running and maintain the servers and, maybe even crowdfund the expenses for it to keep it running. There's people willing to do that if the game has a strong enough fan base, but you can only imagine, just based on the rest of history, that they get cease and desist letters for doing that sort of thing.
Maybe.
We want to sell our newer games. Stop playing the older ones.
Maybe.
Stop it.
But then what about when the current new ones become old? Because those games you listed are kind of before the whole industry shift into just everything being a live service.
Yeah.
Where like
it's going to get worse.
Seasons and updates and how do you archive a game like Destiny or something?
You don't.
Where like you can't. It's impossible.
Yeah. Yep. It's you'll never experience like the glory days of like an online game.
Mm-hmm. I feel it's different now.
It's like the Halo original Halo on PC was like a lot of fun. I wonder if I could still access that. I just miss. There's one thing that I miss so much about multiplayer online games is that when Halo, the first actual PC release of Halo and like StarCraft on PC, I remember being able to select which game you wanted to go in. Someone would like make a title and description of like, oh, I made this type of game. There's like 6 people in it or something, and then you can just join it.
Yeah, like server list.
Now everything is like voted on, and the categories are so vague where it's like, if I want to play a specific game type with people and it's not a custom game with just friends I know and I just want to go online and play a specific game type, you can't really. You can join like a lobby that might have that game type in it, and then if people vote for it on like a random map, then then maybe you can play it. And then people just vote for the same shit every time. It's so annoying.
Yeah, that's the problem with voting.
I miss being able to just look at the list of different games that are happening and just picking one and going in. It was so nice. It's very frustrating.
But as you said earlier, we're just boomers, man. It's not Fortnite. That's how it works now.
That's multiplayer games now.
They just deliver what you need,
Yeah. Well, fucking Sony being stupid, and then Ubisoft being stupid, and everyone's stupid. Now we can talk about Microsoft being stupid. Halo. It's time to talk about Halo.
Video games.
Halo.
So you guys talk. I didn't watch any of this shit, so you guys just talk about it.
I
I'll listen.
suggested Ralph shouldn't watch it also. I'm like...
Yeah. People who hate me could be like, oh, good, let them talk.
Yeah, you're not even like really familiar with the games.
No, because it's past my time. Like, by the time I was the age for Halo, it was irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys are saying, it got old like 10 years ago, whatever. I think the first one, I have played one. I played Halo Reach. That was the first one I played. I'm like, This is fine. And I never played another one.
Play Halo Combat Evolved.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sure they're all good, but they're not really in my time.
Halo Reach is fine. It's never gonna...
That was the start of the decline, arguably.
It's not the same experience as Halo 1.
No.
Play that co-op. Play the campaign co-op with somebody.
Sure, I'll play them one day, maybe, if out of like nostalgia.
That was it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, tell me about Halo. Tell me.
Well, so there's video game called Halo. Very cinematic and influential. It changed how first-person shooters were made. And over time, the games started getting progressively worse. The original company that was making the games decided to go on and do other things like make Destiny.
Yeah, that's right. They made Destiny. Bungie?
Microsoft created another company to take over called 343 Industries.
Mm-hmm.
And they
named after the villain.
Just been, kind of goofing things up repeatedly and making a bunch of crap decisions.
Something I know about Halo is just the lore. the lore of Halo is like very extensive, and I heard they were going to make a film about Halo as well. Neil Blomkamp was like attached to make it.
Yeah, Alex Garland wrote a script. And then
Peter Jackson was going to produce it, and then
Peter Jackson was attached. Yeah,
that kind of fell through, and
Completely.
Peter Jackson ended up producing District 9.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Neil Blomkamp.
For Neil Blomkamp,
the
as
Halo
like
shit.
to kind of like make it up to him.
Yeah.
like it's almost like he felt bad for Neil Blomkamp and gave
Exactly.
him money to make District 9, which is a great movie. But I like that story. I think that's a cool story. But yeah, that Halo movie just never really came through. I don't know what happened with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, we get the Halo TV show.
Nice.
Which is just so bizarre. It's
Like, why now? Why now?
because it's straight to streaming.
Like, Ralph kind of
I don't know.
Yeah, the streaming wars, and Paramount needed some IP that was recognizable to be a flagship.
Yeah, that's exactly why. They spent
Yeah.
$1 billion on South Park.
Oh, but Ralph kind of alluded already, like, to people who aren't already Halo fans, like, it's kind of an old, out of date license now. It doesn't have the same gravitas it once did. It was huge, like the early 2000s. Like, it was such an important video game. It was so also it tied into content creation and like early YouTube stuff. It was such, and Red versus Blue and
Yeah,
everything. It was like
Red
such a like powerful force, and it was like mysterious, and it had that soundtrack, and everyone knows the design of Master Chief.
Everyone
And you
knows
fast
Master
forward
Chief.
20 years later, and you get this TV show, this
We finally got
this
it.
fucking mess of a TV show, which like the most famous thing about it is that like Master Cheeks was born from it because he gets naked so much.
Do you? I don't know if I told you this, but so one of the most unintentionally gay movies ever is Death Race 2, directed by Roel Rene, if I pronounced it correctly. And he's barely done anything. He does like a bunch of straight to video shit. And it like essentially he created a film that was appealing to like, yeah, cars and girls and all that shit. But then
Yeah.
like you break down the movie and it's like, okay, wait, there's a shower scene. Luke Goss is completely naked. The girl is just standing there completely clothed next to him. And like all these shots of his glistening body. And it's like, it's like, I hope this guy's out of the closet, because if not, that's sad. Like it's obvious. It's obvious. You look through the credits of the Halo show, the only two episodes that have like full naked butt shots in them of dudes, directed by Roel Rene. He did it again. Yeah, he did it again. It's literally the only two episodes out of the series that have like this weird homoeroticism to it. Like, I hope he's out of the closet.
That's funny.
I really do. It's weird.
Yeah, they got a strange pool of talent for the show.
Yeah.
Like Jonathan Liebsman directed a couple of episodes. He did Battle Los Angeles and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Wrath of the Titans, right? I think.
So I'm curious what you actually know about Halo. Because it's kind of interesting to me. Like, you're a total outsider to it. You only just played a little bit of Halo Reach, which in lore is like a prequel. Is that like all you know? Do you know anything about like the core conflict, or even what like the name is alluding to?
No, I don't know anything about the lore. I know it's like some kind of Master Chief, right? And there's like a bunch of them. They're like an army, and they
the
fight
Spartans.
aliens. Yeah, the Spartans, right? And they fight like aliens. But yeah, Reach was like a prequel, so I didn't even get like any of the story or whatever. It was just like a
Yeah, it was more like a swan song fan send off, because it was like Bungie's last Halo game. They went backwards instead of taking forwards.
And I play the single player. From what I hear, like the multiplayer is more like what people love about those games. Kind of like the Call of Duty like crowd. Like they like the multiplayer shooting as well. Or even, I'm not saying the universe isn't good, but like, yeah, people like Halo 2 and 3. Yeah, everyone played like the multiplayer, I think.
Yeah, because Halo 2, well, Halo 1 like revolutionized like FPSs on console. Halo 2 came out, revolutionized like multiplayer lobbies and stuff. So like a COD lobbies and stuff. That's all thanks to Halo's like early Xbox Live kind of networking prowess.
Yeah.
And then Halo 3 revolutionized like content creation and content sharing. You had all these like map builders and these like built-in features to like share with each other and everything. And this whole like community aspect that was like a real focus.
That I did remember from, like, my friends played it, and I played like briefly with them. So I do remember that, like the map, or like a game creation, like custom rules. which Call of Duty did also.
Yeah. It was huge. It was way ahead of its curve, way ahead of the time. But yeah, just after that point, it gradually just started decaying, especially when Bungie jumped ship and 343 Industries took over. And I said it a second ago, but I don't know why they named the company based on the villain, one of the main villains of the original trilogy. He's like a robot.
Strange.
343 Guilty Spark. He's like a villainous thing on a Halo ring. So it kind of
very odd.
It set the tone for their whole approach, I think. But they've been they've made 3 games. They've had the Halo license for the same amount of time that Bungie did. Well, actually longer. They've released 3 games of their own, and each one of them has been like more and more of a disaster each time. Like they just have no idea what to do with it, and it's just become this weird like zombie at this point. It just has no identity anymore, and the show's kind of similar. Like, if you wanted to make a Halo TV show, a Halo movie, it needed to be in the kind of late 2000s. Like, it's not prescient anymore in the same way. And if you were going to do it, you'd at least need to aim it at the fans of Halo or something. Like, at least try, because the TV show doesn't even. I don't know who it's for, aside from people who only like kind of vaguely know what Halo is.
Or like that Warcraft movie.
Yeah, but at least with that movie, Warcraft fans actually liked it.
And there was the passion there too. Like Duncan Jones was a Warcraft fan, and he was passionate about making that film and making more of them, perhaps. And I just feel like that isn't here.
Like I definitely didn't like Warcraft.
Like, I feel like if the time to do it would have been like Peter Jackson and Neil Blomkamp, like that would have been the time to do it if they were going to do it. Even if it wasn't great.
And some of the like Neil Blomkamp designs are actually floating out there for like some of the creatures and stuff, and they look really wacky and kind of interesting. But it's just something about this franchise, man. It's trapped in like the mid 2000s, and there's just like a core of people like me and Adam who like played it when we were young, so it's like part of our early gaming memories. But it just hasn't been able to maintain it. And they've tried all sorts of like transmedia stuff before. Like there was this really bad was it straight to it kind of was packaged in with Halo 5. There was this like show or something, this like kind of mini movie. It's called Halo Nightfall.
I feel like I've seen that.
Yeah. And it was like super low budget, really bad acting. And it just makes the franchise look embarrassing. Yeah. Like I can imagine for someone like you seeing this stuff, it must make it look so lame. And you must wonder, like,
it did.
What is it about this property that people even like?
That was like a fan film. I feel like I remember that. It's like a fan film.
Yeah, and I think when Halo 4 came out, there was this like Machinima, the not like an actual Machinima, the Machinima YouTube channel uploaded this mini-series called Forward Unto Dawn, which was plagued by the same issues. It was like, it looked like a fan film. Like, really bad CG, like everything's like hidden, because it's just so like cheap.
The only like good Halo films have been those shorts from Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah, so those existing is even more frustrating, because you've already got a bit of a blueprint for like some kind of idea. Even like some of the Bungie era ads for Halo. Like
hell yeah.
There was like a really famous, like Deliver Hope for Halo Reach was like a cool tonal thing. It's like a real emphasis on like the heaviness, the music.
Yeah. The music's always such an important part of the Halo series.
No, that's like if you had to boil Halo down into 2 things, it's the music and Master Chief in his armor specifically. And those 2 things the Halo TV show doesn't do. It abandons both things.
I think I know the music. Oh, like choir.
Yeah, it's iconic.
Yeah, everyone knows the Halo theme.
Yeah.
So just starting with that,
that's crazy. I haven't even played them really, and I know that. I don't know how I know that, but I do.
Yeah, the monks.
I remember the ad campaign for Halo 3. Believe, with those like miniatures, and the I think it was a Chopin song, Chopin. If not, maybe it was Debussy. I think it
My
was
favorite.
Chopin.
My favorite
Yeah.
classical composer.
It was
Debussy.
They were weirdly reserved. Like there was that like veteran like picking up like a brute's weapon or whatever and
Oh,
talking
so
about
good.
it.
I loved that ad campaign.
Yeah, what a like stylish, tasteful advertising campaign.
They had Halo 2 and 3 had like one of the most like incredible ad campaigns for like television spots and all that. Like each one of them was so like emotional and like just like great short films as ads, basically. Like they really knew
Yeah.
what they were doing.
What happened?
And so you have this library of music that is associated with the game, and they don't use it. They're like tiny little moments in the Halo show
Yeah,
where
little sprinkles.
you can hear like kind of the Halo theme, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this doesn't even feel appropriate at this moment. But like,
Yeah.
it never has the feel of the original games. It never has the feel of the universe. It's just like, oh, there are some character designs of some of the aliens that are the same, and that's about it. They decide to tell like a really bizarre story.
Yeah, like I was like really into like Halo lore when I was like a teenager, like going as far as like reading the books and stuff, and that was like the only enjoyment I got from the show was like, oh, how are they going to fuck up this kind of cool idea from one of the books I remember from like a decade ago?
How are they gonna fuck it up?
Yeah, and they definitely did. It's almost more frustrating. Like there is like a heart to. That's the thing about Halo. In the games, the stories like they're not like anything crazy special. It's more like the package and how it comes together and the context of the time of when they came out, because they're very like it's very familiar kind of stuff. Like it's obviously heavily inspired by Aliens with the Hoorah soldiers, and like the Pelicans look so similar to like the flying vehicles in Aliens, and the Flood are kind of like, you know, the alien from Aliens. There's so much like 80s inspiration in there.
Mm-hmm.
But they managed to bring it together in a way that made something really unique. And with the expanded lore stuff, there was a way they could have approached this and made it be like a satisfying, interesting story. But just the basic kind of level, they fuck up. Like the thing about Master Chief is that he's supposed to be a man of few words.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing. He's supposed to be like a pale guy who's trapped in this suit. He hides in the suit, basically, and he doesn't talk, and he just gets the job done. That's all he does, and he just a few quips here and there. That's kind of his character. But 343 have just been obsessed with, like, quote-unquote, humanizing him.
Who's the man behind the helmet?
Yeah,
I
but it's
really
like...
want to know who that guy is.
Yeah, is Master Chief the main character of the show?
Yes.
Yeah, which is weird.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's his butt look like?
I don't feel that's a good idea.
It's
yeah,
not.
you're right. It's not a good idea. But even then, after watching something like The Mandalorian, which has a main character who's always in armor, only takes it off like once, it is possible. You can do it. You just got to surround the main character with something, you know, something interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you need like a rookie character, like a tertiary character who, like, Master Chief is there, but he's like a supporting role or like the kind of the leader or something, not the focus. Because it's just Master Chief is just like a look, and there's nothing to him.
They had one episode where they focused on some girl that I don't remember her name.
Quan.
And it's the worst. It's the worst rated episode on IMDb, and people were very, very mad. I thought that it was like, I don't know, as bad as the rest of the show, pretty much. But I understand, like, you know, the nerds who are like, well, I want Master Chief, and then they spend an entire episode on, what is her name, Quan?
Quan Ha. I had to write it down before we started because I couldn't remember.
Yeah, they spent an entire episode on her. I can visualize the nerd rage happening there.
Yeah, because she gets like an entire kind of B plot that spans the entire season that's kind of just mostly irrelevant to everything. Like, it's really just like nothing. It's like, the only thing that I could like not forgive, but at least understand more was that like the budget limitations perhaps for this first season were so restrictive that they just needed to fill it with some just dumb shit like that. and like just to get the show out there, just to prove like, look, we're making this show, and we just need to prove that people watch it so we can get another season and we can get more money. And because it's an expensive concept. It's a huge like space opera, all these locations, these CG creatures and monsters like constantly on screen. But then it cuts to like Kwan Ha for half of every episode. Like just pottering about in like the desert on like a dune buggy.
Yeah, she's not doing anything. She's like, I got handcuffed to a motorbike. Or something, like I don't remember.
And it's like the most obvious like rebel type, like she sees her dad get like killed and
So weird.
he was like a rebel and it like sends her on this path, but it's like, why? What is it? Why are you doing this in the Halo show? Because simultaneously the main plot thread is them like, it starts before they actually know what a Halo ring is, and it's like them going on that journey to try and find it.
So there are like different communities or something. There's like different rebel factions, and then like near the beginning they get attacked by the Covenant, and they're like, they think it's UNSC, but it's Covenant, and they're like, so the show is saying that they didn't know the Covenant existed. They thought it was like a myth or something. Is like the impression I got, that they thought Covenant was just a story until they get attacked by it.
Yeah, they hadn't really interacted with them properly quite yet.
It's so weird.
Yeah, because from what I remember, and it was kind of a cool like lore thing, is that like the Spartan program is started by this kind of crazy scientist, Dr. Halsey, who commits all these like war crimes and all these kind of illegal activities to get this Spartan program done, to fight all these like militias and whatnot that are dotted around the galaxy. And the only reason she gets away with it is because the Covenant aliens just happen to attack like shortly after, and they need them to actually win or stand a chance of winning. So there's this constant tension with this scientific like insane character who's like kind of a stand-in for Master Chief's mother, and there's kind of like some tension and character going on there. And they try to do it in the show, but the way they approach it is very all over the place.
I'm looking at my notes and remembering that the Covenant have like a pet who is like a mole. Like she's trying to get Master Chief to fuck her so that she can trick him when she's on the Covenant side, but she's
he fucks her. He commits a war crime and fucks a prisoner of war. the main character.
Yeah, while his mom watches.
What the fuck? What kind of show is this?
It's weird.
It's so weird.
They're like trying to inject these like weird like romantic Romeo and Juliet, or like ooh, I'm tempted by the enemy woman, like I don't know. It's a weird angle to have in the show.
Yeah, because it's over the course of like one episode too.
It's so bizarre that they would decide to do that. It doesn't feel like Halo, you know? They more weirdly kind of model the story on something like Mass Effect, where the kind of initial incident that propels the story is like the main character touching some kind of relic, some alien relic, which then embodies them with some like knowledge or something, and then sends them on a quest, which was like never really part of Halo. And that's like how this enemy character also has some link with a relic, and it's just like the MacGuffin relic chasing thing, and they need two relics together so then they can find where the Halo ring is, which is also like the beacon.
Yeah, and man, every now and again there's an action episode, like fully action, like more like trying to channel, I guess, like a multiplayer game or something, where a grunt like jumps on a warthog and it's all this like CG nightmare. The production's really strange. Yeah, because like everything looks kind of like it's like really obviously soundstagey, and it's all like overly lit and disgusting looking, but it's also obvious they spent a lot of money on it. Like, it doesn't look good though. It sits in such a strange place,
and they just keep returning back to like the same sets.
It's
like, okay, I guess you're just gonna get some use out of this one.
There are these characters in the original trilogy, the Prophets, which they're always like one of my favorite aspects. I think they're really fun, like these verbose villains that are always like monologuing over comms. They're these like religious leaders that are just like have their whole the whole alien's convinced of their plan or whatever in this great journey. And they kind of look okay in the show, but then they change them to only speak the alien language, so you don't get the cool like monologues from them in the same way. It's all just like it's like, oh my god, this is fucking
just gibberish.
Yeah,
I'm like, they didn't create like a thorough language. This isn't like Klingon or anything. They're just speaking random sounds.
But that was like an intentional choice in Halo 2. When the story kind of gets way more complicated, they make all the aliens like speak English just for the sake of just delivering the story in a more simplistic way.
Every science fiction property, Mass Effect, you just imagine you have a translator or whatever. Just I don't know.
So it's just that they change things here.
She's just evil and just working with them. But how did that get set up? They they explained that she was like. There was like a flashback and she got like her like friend as a kid died or something, and then she was like, I hate humans.
They basically they like saved her as a child, and even though like that's another one of the like core lore things is that the Covenant are supposed to despise humanity because they know at the top that
we will keep this one as a pet. Yeah,
or the humans are the only thing that can interact with like the Halo technology because it was built by like ancient humanity or whatever. So there's some genetic link there, and they can't figure out how to use it without humans being involved. Yeah, but they know that if they explain that to their religious base, it will undo all of their like brainwashing. So they've got to like convinced that the demons or I can't remember what phrase they specifically call humanity, but it's like this commentary on just like didactic religion, which is really cool and at the base of the story. And it's so fumble when you have like a human character on the other side, which I assume is partially for budgetary reasons again, because if you had like an elite kind of lead like villain or something, it's just prop the budget up even more. It's an expensive thing to have aliens everywhere. So
the pet mole lady, the evil one that Master Cheeks had sex with, so she sends an order for like killing people on the ship, and then people were like, who did that? And then they play the recording, and then just from the voice alone, Halsey is like, that's it. And she ties things together immediately without any sort of investigation. She's like, you did it. She's like, oh. Mm-hmm. And that was there was no, I don't know, no interrogation or anything.
Everything just moves so
like, you
quick.
Did it.
Like nothing's developed or given like time to like sit and kind of increase some tension or whatever. Because like,
yeah, like how many times have you heard of her voice too? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
The whole thing's kind of weird. It's just so...
I was able to enjoy this show kind of ironically. It was kind of like a fun, dumb thing. Like, my expectations were not high. Essentially, what they did is they created like a really lame show that you would expect to see on the Sci-Fi Channel like 15 years ago or something. And a bit better effects than that, obviously. But in terms of like writing and like acting and stakes... the repetitive nature of like the scenes and how slowly things develop, like it's just, this is a standard nonsense sci-fi television show, of which there are lots of, and many successful ones that a lot of people watch and that we're not aware of, and they exist, but they do successfully, and this is just kind of one of those. I was enjoying it in a way where like there's some things in the show where it just seems like a punchline. You can play it as a drinking game every time they take off their helmet when there's no reason to. Like the Spartans, they have numbers on their chest, right? Mm-hmm. Like, why are they taking off their helmet every time they walk into a conversation with someone? Like, take off the helmet. Like, you got speakers like literally in fight scenes or like at points where they're in danger, where it's like, okay, I'm just exposing my weak point, sort of thing. Like, hello, it's for the audience to see who's talking, but. I mean, like, would people be that confused, especially fans of the show? Like, even if you're not a fan of the show, just, explain, 117 on the chest plate, that's Master Chief. The other number, like, not only are the numbers different, their armor designs are completely different. Like, they're different colors. Like, everyone's very distinct. You can just show them putting on the helmet earlier. You can, like, they have different enough voices too, like that you'd be able to tell them apart. But they just keep taking off their helmets, and it's so funny. Like, every single time it happens, it's hilarious to me. And what I realized,
it's like dumber than Power Rangers.
What I realized eventually is that that's probably why they changed the lore of Cortana being in his helmet to being in his head, is so that she can keep yapping to him while his helmet's off.
Yeah.
That's probably exactly why so basically, Ralph, in the Halo games, Cortana's a chip that got put in his helmet, and he has to like protect her, and she just chills in his helmet as an AI. But in the show, they did this weird thing where they injected her into his brainstem. Like, there was a surgical operation to like put her in his head for no reason. And it was kind of one of those like, why are they doing this? And then later I realized, it's so he can keep his helmet off the entire show and she can keep yapping at him. Like, that's exactly why they did that. It was so weird.
Oh, okay. Cortana, like the voice thing on
the AI, the blue Windows Phone lady.
Yeah, that's what it's named. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also part of Halo. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where it comes from. Yeah.
Yeah, Windows 10 lady.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, isn't
that crazy?
You probably know it. Yeah, people know her more for that than
that.
the actual franchise.
That's how I knew it.
Microsoft like released their own competitor to Siri and Alexa, and they just used the existing character from a fucking video game. It's so funny that they did that.
Because I guess they own the rights. Yeah, it's a Microsoft.
We're gonna sell all of our Windows phones like this. Cortana,
a character that shifted into being a villain. By the time like they started putting it into like Windows, they love like just taking the villains and like building it into like core brand identity. It's hilarious.
So if you have a Windows phone and you have the voice commands turned on and you play a Halo game with speakers on and they start talking about Cortana, is your phone just gonna go crazy? Is it going to be one of those, like, you're punished for buying the phone and for playing Halo at the same time?
I have an iPhone. I know it from, like, my computer. Like, my PC has Cortana, obviously.
Oh, wait, yeah. There's probably people listening with speakers on right now.
Yeah.
Okay, Google, play Death Grips. Hey, Siri, play Death Grips. Hey, Cortana, play Death Grips. All right, we got them all.
Hey, Cortana, unsubscribe from Paramount Plus.
Man, it just doesn't seem like a good show to me, and that's why I didn't really watch it. That's more I have nothing against Halo, because I feel like a good comparison is Game of Thrones. Like, I wasn't a Game of Thrones fan beforehand. I didn't read those books, but it seemed like not only did people who watched that, like who read those books, like enjoyed the show, it was like a good show on its own. They'd spent like a few years developing that pilot and getting the cast right, and like they clearly put a lot of thought into like these really important pieces, which I think really paid off. And like, I don't know, it's just like, I hear about like they were working on the pilot of Game of Thrones, and someone was like, wait, are Cersei and Jaime supposed to be brother and sister? And they realized like, oh, that wasn't communicated clearly. So they went back and like reshot things, and like they really worked on that pilot in that first season just to make sure it was like really great, because they knew like the potential there. And I don't know, did the Halo show feel that way? Did it feel like they really put a lot of thought into everything? No, right?
Not at all. It's like kind of the inverse.
The showrunners were quoted as saying that they didn't want to take any inspiration from games so that they could just be more free with, like, what was it? There were like people that worked on it, like the writers that were like, yeah, we haven't played the games.
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Like, we didn't want to read any of the books of Halo, and I was like, okay.
But which is a lie.
Yeah.
There's so much of like the lore in there, but it's just wrong. Like, it's changed just enough to be irritating to anyone who actually like cares about it.
It punishes the fans.
Yeah.
Things that like a casual viewer who has never played Halo before would not get irritated by, but if you love the games, you get like insanely irritated by these. I'm like, why are they playing the Covenant door opening sound on a UNSC ship? I'm like, why you can't just take from the sound library and go like, oh, that sounds cool, and like put it there. They play the like the cloaking power up sound when it turns off too, and I was like, that's not accurate. It's just little tiny things. That are like,
they're turning us into those guys.
Yeah, this is like how I feel about a lot of things. Like, if you're a fan of something, you do notice these little things. That's why it's like important to have people who like understand and like because fans latch onto that shit. They will know like, oh, that's the sound effect from that. Like, it's a little detail, but those things add up. They do add up, and
I'm in favor of the idea of changing things from the source material, but I prefer for it to be motivated. If it seems random, then you're giving off the impression that you don't respect the original property and that you don't care about it. And obviously, I mean, the quotes from the people working on the show reflect that as well. And so if you're making a property and you're saying, we don't give a shit about the original, we don't give a shit about the fans, we're just going to make our own thing, and there's no good reason for any of the decisions we're making, I don't know who you're selling this to. Like, you're just some boomers that are like, oh, my grandson played Halo before, and then they click on it and they go, oh, this is interesting science fiction.
It just doesn't make sense because they do pepper in like specific fan service, like Cortana is voiced by Jen Taylor,
which is
who
weird.
Voices her in the games,
but then Halsey's British, and then So Halsey, I'll explain this really quickly, Ralph. So Halsey, and my voice is cracking, I've been yelling all day yesterday. Halsey is a character that Cortana, the AI, was created from. So they had the same voice in the video games because it was like, oh, we just took my brain and then implanted it into an AI, basically. In the show, Halsey's a British person, and they keep Cortana as the same voice. And when they start her up, and they're doing like this whole like, oh, I am an AI. She says the line, I forget, I'm paraphrasing, but she literally says like, my features and voice have been fine-tuned to be appealing to you. And it's like, well, are you saying British people have annoying voices? Like, what are you saying here? Like
that's funny.
So true.
Literally, her startup is like, yeah, British people sound stupid. Like, that's basically what happened. Okay.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah, I don't understand it.
It's baffling
because it's kind of the same approach that they've been doing with the games as well. Because like 343 were directly attached to this. They're like one of the production companies. Kiki Wolfkill, I think her name, is one of the lead producers. And there's all these like embarrassing quotes of her defending decisions, like Chief fucking the enemy
in front of his mom
or whatever, and all this.
Yeah, like his mom's watching.
Cortana watching. Yeah, that's so strange.
Because she's in his brain, like with his like. They didn't. It would be funny if they wrote like a part where he's like, Cortana, sleep mode or something, like, I don't know, but that didn't happen. She's just like watching him have, commit sexual misconduct at the very least.
Just
rape maybe.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments like that.
Oh yeah, he's a virgin too. He lost his virginity in front of his mom. That was like a part of the he'd never had sex before that point.
This is crazy.
Yeah, hilariously, that's supposed to be like part of Master Chief's like lore.
Yeah,
is that like he is a virgin? He shouldn't fuck. That's like a core part of him. He's supposed to be this like introverted, quiet, pale guy who just lives in a suit, and he's kind of like has this relationship with an AI.
Yeah, that was kind of the love interest of the first few games. Is like the female interest, archetype character, whatever we want to call it. It was the AI chip that was helping him throughout, battles and complete his missions and all that shit. She was like sexualized to some degree. She was like a naked blue character or whatever, but it was, it was somewhat of a unique and interesting angle compared to other traditional love interest characters that are injected into things. Like, I don't know, it was somewhat unique. It felt interesting, but yeah, like now it kind of devalues that in a way. And I guess maybe they're just not going for that. Like maybe there will be no indication or no implication at all of any kind of, hinting at love interest between Master Chief and Cortana. Because now he's now he's just fucking someone's pet.
Even though it's normally one of the like main plot points is like Cortana is somewhere, we need to get to her and save her.
They stole my brain mass. Yeah, in the games, he'll leave the chip somewhere and be like, "Oh, gotta go back."
The flood got the chip.
Yeah, he left it there.
Sounds very weird.
There's no time to explain. Just go.
Very odd show.
That was kind of funny. Yeah, I would fix that part if it was being translated to a film. There's got to be a better reason why he just leaves Cortana there. But
He they like never show a Halo ring either,
which is
like,
lame.
They didn't go to one.
They didn't. Yeah, like that was part of what was so cool about the games is they made the games seem, from a visual standpoint, way more impressive and way more expansive and immersive by just having, you look up in the sky and it's just a painted part of the backdrop, but instead of like clouds on one portion of the, on 1 degree, however many degrees of your vision, you'd see the entire ring that like you can, keep panning up or whatever, tilting your camera angle up and then looking over at the other side. And it was like a very intelligent, creative decision for environment and aesthetic, like just visual game design. It was...
Yeah, it creates scope. Yeah.
That's probably the entire reason why it was a ring planet, is just to have that cool visual in the game, basically.
Yeah, it's a cool aesthetic.
But yeah, then they don't give a shit.
But the Halo rings also, like, they are the story. That is the story of Halo. It's the Halo rings. They're big, like, power weapons. They're big, like, nukes in space. Like, that is the story of Halo. And the Halo show doesn't have them in it. They're trying to find
Season
them.
2. You gotta wait.
But that's another thing, though, is that an integral part of Halo, the 343 just hate for some reason, is the horror angle. The flood.
Yeah.
Why are they so averse to it? I guess maybe they'll build to it and then maybe want a bigger budget to like inject into the show.
There were like worms or something in this one. What was that about?
Those are supposed to be hunters. Like hunter worms.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Someone explained that in chat.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a plan, like GOT did. They have like a plan of like season 2 and 3. Like, oh, we'll do the flood, and like season 3 is like the dark node, and like
Yeah.
maybe.
I'm sure they've got the whole thing mapped out. I'm sure it'll be
There's
epic.
so much like good TV out there,
I'm gonna watch it. It was really funny.
Oh yeah, I got loads of humor.
It was perfect because like
What, season 2 of this?
I tried watching it by myself and I like gave up at about like, I don't know, 20 minutes into it, and I was like, I'm never gonna watch this. I was having a miserable time, and then I started my YMS watch-alongs channel where I live stream myself going through certain shows, and that was one where I was like, okay, this is perfect because I can kind of like riff on it, with a Twitch chat, and that was the environment where I was able to continue watching the show. I would not have finished the show otherwise.
It's perfect for something like that.
Yeah, I was. That was a much more enjoyable experience.
You make me interested in seeing where playing the games anyway, not watching the show.
Oh, please play the first one. Play the first one co-op.
First 3
with somebody who else has never played it or something.
Yeah,
the Master Chief Collection has it. I would say do old graphics.
there's those,
but I don't know. It's your choice.
Oh yeah, definitely on Halo 1.
Well, I have like the original Xbox I've been playing with recently, and I do like playing games on like that console just because that's
you have an original Xbox.
Yeah, I've actually been playing Blade 2,
Halo.
the game now. I'll get it.
God.
I'll order eBay it. I've been eBaying like a bunch of games.
I think I have like 6 extra copies or something.
But like I do like the console just because that is the way like the developer planned for you to play it and see the graphics, and when you're playing on like an emulator or whatever, it's like it's slightly different. It's cleaner.
Do you have like a tube TV?
Yeah, well, not a tube TV, but it's like a TV with one of those shitty inputs
composite.
or whatever. Like now you have an HDMI.
The SCART plug.
But it is part of like the aesthetic
Yeah.
of those games, I feel, and that's why I do like playing on like a console, even if you have to
hear
pay for
you.
a disc or whatever.
I got a bunch of old consoles.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm definitely more interested in the games than I am like ever watching the show because it sounds like a mess. Like you guys are describing things, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of the show.
Yeah.
Like, are there any like good characters? Like
No.
No.
Master Chief and Siri.
Yeah. There's tiny bits of conflict that are taken from the lore of Halo that I can see being compelling to people who haven't experienced the games before, because you put that in a show and it's like, oh, there are some compelling elements, like the fact that all the Spartans were like kidnapped as children and like repressed memories of just mind wipe and like
Oh yeah, I do know
all that shit. Like there's some stuff to work with there from a narrative standpoint that I can just imagine, like, oh yeah, if this is someone's first time experiencing it, then that would be like pretty cool. They're like somewhat compelling elements to it, but if you're a fan of the games, it's just so much worse. Like it's not well put together in any way, really.
But then it's also it's trying to be like an action show too. I know I kind of talked a little bit about the action.
CG
they do the Doom thing. They do the Doom thing where it's like showing the POV, like alluding to the video game. Like it's so corny, so dumb.
His gun's so weird. Just imagine him like putting his assault rifle up to like his eyes. Like just imagine the wide shot.
Yeah,
the third person.
It's just it's so frustrating. And like it was episode 5 where they kind of unleash their big first action scene, where like this base is like suddenly attacked by a Covenant cruiser and there's like banshees flying around, and I was like scream laughing at that sequence because I was like, man, if this is how they like want to adapt the kind of words that I'd read on the page, or like imagine with like the stuff I'd read about the lore, and like, oh my god, maybe some of this stuff should just be left alone, left to the imagination, because seeing Master Chief like jack a banshee and then crash it into a phantom in the show is not like it doesn't look as cool, or it pays off and quite as how you'd like imagine,
especially when the music sucks.
Yeah, genuinely 50% of its identity is that music, and without it being there, it's just, I've seen a few like fan edits of like just a few scenes from the show, just little tweaks putting in some of that official music, and it does at least make it feel more apt, more appropriate. Yeah, it's so generic.
Yeah, the trailer has like some remix of a song, and the top comment's like, "Why don't you use the Halo soundtrack?"
The top
comment of the official trailer on YouTube.
Play the old music. God damn!
It's not like they don't own it.
There's barely any remakes or interpretations that do that. Like the Silent Hill movie is like one of very few where it's like, oh, we're just taking some of the songs from like Silent Hill 2 and 3, and like, oh shit, it works. You know, you have the tone and the feel. It feels like the games to a certain degree. It's not a great movie, but it's made by somebody who actually gave a shit about the franchise. That's the big difference, right? Why are we giving these properties to people who don't care about them? Give them something else. Make a not Halo. I don't know.
Yeah.
Give it to somebody who gives a shit.
You're basically making not Halo anyway. You're making something more frustrating.
Yeah. Who's it for?
More annoying.
Well. Oh, boy. Well, did you watch it on Paramount Plus?
Paramount Plus only came out like a few weeks ago in the UK, so yes.
You know what's really funny? So Paramount Plus has like a couple different tiers for subscription level, and so the most expensive one is like you don't get ads, but on the basic one, which is what my boyfriend's roommate had when I was visiting, and I was like by myself for a few hours that day. So I just put it on. I was like, oh, they have Paramount Plus, and I didn't know it was like the ad one. They had the amount of ads that they have is just so funny. Like literally,
really?
Just like right at the beginning of. I wrote this down. It was so weird. 3. It'll go like 3 out of 3, and just like one of them's like for Walmart, and then. The third one was a title card animation that said Paramount Plus Original, and then that exact same title card played again right after it as part of the show. So it was like the same animation twice in a row, with one of them being an ad, apparently, which was like really weird. It just seemed, it was so bizarre.
Because the episodes aren't that long either. They're pretty short for the most part. 30, 40 minutes each. Yeah. I think I knew immediately in that first episode when they show the intro that they play in each episode, and they don't play any Halo music. It's this weird, like, just toned down, super generic. It just sounds like some like pre-made thing on a license-free website or something. like a generic sci-fi sounds. And that's like how they introduce, and like the intros to like a show is supposed to set some kind of tone, you know, The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, these intros are classic. The Game of Thrones is another good one.
Yeah, there's a lot of great TV out there. It's just what I was saying, and especially now, there's like so much competition.
So much.
And you really need to do something to stand out.
Yeah,
and this doesn't stand out to me. It's such a time commitment that, and it's not worth it. It's not worth watching 10 hours of something that's just like, it's okay. Like, it doesn't even sound terrible. It's like, it's fun.
They've stripped the personality from the original property and everything that makes it great, and they've produced a very generic sci-fi show with, you know, some names of characters from Halo, basically.
Yeah.
Just a boring show.
Which is using the Halo IP and imagery to try and sell it. That's the weird thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of talking.
Like, what? Why would you...
A lot of nonsense. Yeah. Not compelling.
A lot of cringe.
A lot of cringe. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll give it that. It's funny. Not in an intentional way.
Butt shots, courtesy of Roll Renee. I give this a... 4 out of 10. I know some people might think that that's pretty generous, but I think in this, you know, in the grand scheme of things, if I were to imagine like not being like a Halo, like a lot of these things are just like, why aren't you following the lore? And it's just a lot of really annoying things. But separated from the original property, it's just like a generic kind of funny science fiction, sci-fi programming style television show. It just seems like it just another one from the pile sort of thing, and it was funny enough to watch along with and riff on it. So I will be watching season 2. I enjoyed riffing on it. I had fun with it. So
I will too. I'll hate watch it. Yeah. I do admit I cannot divorce it from the source material. I just mentally I can't do it. Like the whole thing is just like built off all the imagery, all the characters, all the names are the same. But then they'll just leave out things like, why is Johnson not in it? Like, if you want fans to like it, why would you not do these kind of things? I feel like if they just had, like, Johnson in there, had the actual music in there, and he just took his helmet off less.
Or never.
Way more people would be happy. Or never, yeah.
That's the correct answer. You can just have, like, you made an entire fucking, like... Ryan Gosling in the movie Drive just barely speaks, you know? You can have a stoic character.
Yeah.
You can still have that and write around them and have them do cool shit.
There's a way of doing it.
Yeah, but then they're like, but we want to make a generic sci-fi thing, and so it has to be a lot of conversation about nothing. Padding.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as a rating, I don't know, 1 star. It really sucks.
It's not good.
Yeah, try harder.
Okay.
Try harder. But yeah, it's to be expected at this point from 343 and the way they treat this franchise. So.
Thanks.
That makes me kind of worried for the Lord of the Rings show. I don't think it's the same. That's Amazon.
Oh, that's not going to be good.
Yeah, it's like, I feel it's going to be like the same thing as this. Like very bland.
It has a bit more money going into it, but yeah.
It'll probably have the same issues.
Yeah.
There's this growing streaming show problem where they need content. And so they're not going to rush through any story or like wrap things up in a satisfying way because they want more seasons. So it's just full of fluff. All these shows full of fluff. Stranger Things full of fluff. Halo full of fluff. They want it to go like 7, 8 seasons. So
yeah,
this is and they've already told the Lord of the Rings stories. Like
and you take seasons where it's like, okay, all of this could have been communicated in 4 episodes, and you made it 10 episodes.
Yeah,
that's annoying.
Just to keep people subscribed. Yeah, it's part of the business model, and it's ruining it.
Yeah, so that they always have things that they need to keep watching.
Yeah.
I can't cancel my Netflix. I haven't seen all the Stranger Things.
Yeah, especially when it's 20 hours long.
All right, we watched a movie. I recommended a movie. Spoiler discussion for a movie. It was 12 Monkeys, and it's directed by Terry Gilliam, who also has directed such classics as Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and... Brazil. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Very versatile director.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular film stars Bruce Willis. It's got Christopher Plummer in it. And it's a sci-fi time travel movie where he has to gather information on the origins of a virus that kills, like 90% of the population or something?
Yeah, it's like billions.
Yeah, so he's a prisoner and he goes back in time to try and figure shit out. Very enjoyable movie for me. What do you think about it?
Yep. I agree. Yeah, Terry Gilliam got his start in comedy. That's like, he did really goofy comedy. And with like Monty Python and whatever in the show. And yeah, this is like a straight up thriller, very plot driven. Like you said, science fiction. And it's great. It's another, he's a great director. Everything he makes is great.
Not everything.
Well, not recently. I didn't like the Don Quixote movie.
Yeah.
Don Quixote, as I said, because I was, whatever. But like, yeah, this is a great movie, I feel.
There's a line towards the end where they're watching the like Hitchcock marathon in the cinema, having like a little conversation, and Bruce Willis has like a really good line about how it's kind of about the like subjectivity of movies and how every time you watch a movie you've changed as a person, so it's almost like watching a new movie every time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what my experience was kind of like, because I watched this like a long time ago,
yeah,
and I remember enjoying it but being a little bit confused by some parts and definitely not enjoying it as much as Brazil. But I really, really got a lot out of this rewatch of it. Really solid sci-fi. Love the production.
Yeah.
Love how kind of scrappy it is with the, like how limited it was. 'Cause it was a fairly small budget. Like last episode, we were talking about Bruce Willis taking pay cuts. And I don't think he was even paid for this movie up front.
Oh, wow.
He had to, he only got money after the fact, once it was a commercial hit. And I kind of underestimated how kind of popular this movie is, because just going off like how many ratings it has on IMDb, it's got like 600K compared to like Brazil's 200K.
Wow.
But I guess it's that Bruce Willis, like in the 90s, just on fire, picking the right project.
It's a very 90s movie. I do like that about the film, like particularly, I guess, the flashbacks or the flash forwards, like whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Like the editing and the music there. But I do like that about the movie. Like you said, the production is great, like the visuals and lots of like variety. Like the whole the first part of this movie in the mental hospital, that's such like a great sequence of scenes. Like that could be its own movie basically.
Yeah.
But it isn't. That's just like the first half hour or whatever, and then it keeps going and it does all these things that are like, you know, very visually fun. And yeah, it's just, the plot is good. It's very story driven and it's very different for him as a director. Like, and yeah, the time travel here makes sense. I don't know if you wanted to say, Adam, but it's like one of those few time travel movies. It's actually like, when you think about it, it all ties together like kind of perfectly. You got to far-fetched a little, but it does.
It feeds into itself, which is something, yeah. So if you're going to change the past should be the existing past, and the changes that you make should have already happened. And I've said that this is one of like two movies I can think of where the time travel is entirely consistent. On this newest rewatch, I realized that there was one part of the movie that it does not follow that rule, so I unfortunately have to take it off the list.
What part was it?
At the end of the movie, when the other guy gives him a gun, he says, "We got your message." So he left a message on the voicemail saying, "It's not the 12 monkeys. Those are just some animal rights activists." And then the other guy comes back. He's like, "Oh, you're a hero. We found out it's not the 12 monkeys." It's like, okay, well, then that would have happened beforehand because he already did that. Sort of like, it's the one thing that doesn't feed into it, like everything else that takes place in the movie, everything else that he does is something that before he did it was already something that existed in the future because he did do it in the past. Does that make sense? But this is the one example of something where it seems to have altered the future in real time, which creates like a different
yeah. Well, there's just like little things like that doesn't take away from the experience for me. It's like a Tenet, like, okay, so like what happens to bullets and what happens to like reverse bullets in Tenet? Do they like disappear, like like, but whatever,
they go back into the ammunition clip?
Like, it's just like one of those things you gotta far-fetch.
It really doesn't get bogged down in all that, the kind of like mechanics of the story, because they kind of build in the kind of unreliable narrator type thing.
That too.
The main character like isn't necessarily sure like what is even real and what is at a certain point. It's like a big question throughout the movie.
That's a layer to this film that makes it so much more compelling than a time travel try to save the world from a virus movie. Is the angle where it could all just be in his head. You know, and it's teasing that throughout the movie. I think it's pretty conclusive that it's not by the end of it. I think it definitely leans into that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not as ambiguous as it could have ended, but I like that there is that layer to the film where you could be like, hey, wait, hold on. Maybe he was dreaming. Maybe he is just crazy. Maybe he belonged in that institution. It's just an extra thing to chew on, and it makes it so much better, much more compelling.
Yeah.
What did you think about the whole kind of steampunk aesthetic of the future? It's kind of reminded me of Brazil a little bit with the kind of funky look to everything.
Mm-hmm. That's his style.
I like Terry Gilliam's like interpretations of what's the word? Dystopian futures.
Yeah.
There definitely were some Brazil vibes to a lot of things going on. I love the that like round display of all the television sets that the scientists use, and they just get it right up in his face. And I love how animated they say their lines. They're all like taking turns right after each other, completing each other's sentences. Like, you've got what you've always wanted, a full pardon. Like they've all rehearsed it, and it's so cartoonish.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be. I love his like weird, absurdist takes on dystopian future and this like kind of corporate like way that characters express themselves in the future. You know, it's great.
Yeah, which is like mimicked in the mental hospital with the when he's like being inspected behind the desk by the crew.
Yeah,
which also adds to like, the confusion of like, is he just like making this up in his head?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right.
There's some great parallels. He gets hosed down in both scenarios. There was that reincorporation. I believe it had the same shot, just the slow dolly forward. But yeah, very nice, purposeful reincorporation in this film.
Mm-hmm. It's a great story. Like, there's a lot you can do with time travel. I feel it's interesting. Like, the company basically starting the whole thing by sending Bruce Willis back. They're trying to stop the virus or whatever, but they inadvertently start the 12 Monkeys and all this by accidentally sending Bruce Willis back.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just like a fun way to like tell a story and like play with the audience and their expectations of like what they expect to happen. And so the future's like, there's a virus or whatever that like ends the world. Do they ever stop that technically, or is that just going to happen? Because
no, it happens for sure. So they weren't even trying to necessarily prevent it by sending him back in time. They were trying to learn about the virus to like discover a cure for it and use like the original blah 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 to make like a yeah.
But just what you're expecting from a narrative, like, oh, they're going to use time travel to save the world, but like they don't.
Yeah,
like that's awesome. Like that's it's such like morbid and like great way of like telling a story. I think like the world's gonna end, so there's no way stopping it.
It solves a lot of potential problems too, where like, you know, in any other scenario, like I don't know, Mass Effect 3, like the character like decides to do some love interest stuff. It's like, shouldn't you be stopping the Reapers? Whereas like in this one, not only is there like the crazy element, but it's like he's not until the end of the movie at least, he's not really trying to prevent the virus from happening. He's just trying to discover more about it and, you know, figure things out in his own head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if it's just like the optimist in me interpreting the very end with the woman saying that she works in insurance and also being like one of the board members from you know, the future if that was supposed to be like a little nod to, is that like a double meaning thing? Is she's saying in the moment she works in insurance, or she's saying she was the insurance, like after the fact of Bruce Willis's like plan failing, and that her being there with the virus guy, maybe she got the information on the virus and took that back with her, seeing as she was from the board.
Maybe that's an interesting way to interpret it. You could also interpret it as like, oh, she's trying to ensure the future of humanity in the future. Yeah, because she wasn't like... Did they de-age her with makeup or anything? Like, was that trying to imply that that was like a previous version of her that would later grow up?
I didn't notice any obvious de-aging, but I definitely noticed like, oh, that's the same character.
Yeah. So the question I would be wondering is like, did they send her back in time, or is that her before she was a scientist?
Yeah, that's the question.
Is she a fraud?
So I guess it's up to interpretation.
Did she lie? Like, what is that? Yeah, that's kind of a... Yeah, I didn't think about that other angle. That's interesting.
Yeah, those questions are better left vague. I think that makes the story...
Yeah, so it is kind of vague.
I like that there's not a concrete answer.
More interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Time travel narratives can fall apart if you start like giving out too much information.
Yeah.
And like, it's just like all the right things. Like, it's a tight story, and it's like, it's not focused on like just the time travel. It has all these other things going on, like the visuals and like the performances and the characters' state. And, like the relationship between Bruce Willis and like the woman character, Madeline Stowe. Like, there's a lot going on. And Brad Pitt's performance, who's really great in this movie. Like, I fucking love him in this movie. He's awesome.
It might be my favorite of his performances, honestly. He got nominated for an Oscar.
One of my favorites, yeah. So different for him. He's playing like a fucking kook with a lazy eye. Like, it's great. It's like
the ticks.
Tyler Durden before Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
Like really good.
So animated.
And it's a great misdirect.
Yeah.
Like his whole character.
Yeah, it really is. I love the... Terry Gilliam always has really great cinematography when it comes to like what lenses he's using and how close they're going to be to the subject. And what I love about his movies is that it's not just a random like, oh, okay, this shot's in here to fill your quota. It's done so in a purposeful way. Like there's more frequent uses of wider lenses and close angles in the mental institution. The Dutch angles also, there's a lot of those. Like, the visuals are complementing the unstable environment and the unstable characters by having unstable shots. And it's not, they could have done something like
heightening the kookiness,
handheld shaky cam or something. But, Terry Gilliam's style, it reminded me a bit of, Brazil and Fear and Loathing. He does those things quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, just like the design of like the time travel machine and the chair and the monitors.
Yeah.
And, all that with the eyes on them and whatever.
I like that it doesn't get too bogged down with like trying to over-explain how the time travel works.
Yeah.
It doesn't really show him disappearing or appearing anywhere. It kind of just, we're left to interpret him disappearing in one scene with I guess they just threw a stone in the creek for that ripple effect. Very practical, but effective. And then every time he comes back, you don't see him like, oh, I'm in a subway naked or something. It's always like a day later, however much time later, where he's in a scenario. He's, being taken to the mental hospital or trying to kidnap the psychiatrist or, we don't need that information for the story to work.
Yeah. And it looks very like flimsy. It's supposed to be kind of like a new machine. That's why it fucks up and sends him back to the wrong time.
Oh yeah.
Like that's part of the story. And so like the visuals complement it. Like it doesn't look very, safe.
No.
Like,
that's what's great
unstable.
About it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why, again, he's a prisoner. His character's like a convict.
It's exactly why they're using prisoners.
Yeah, because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really well done. Every part of it and telling that story.
Yeah, even when they're like tone setting at the beginning, where Bruce Willis is in that like wacky, like inflatable suit thing, going around collecting animals, and then how the animals like come back towards the end with the whole 12 monkeys like reveal. I was just so glad that it's like, oh, real animals in a movie.
Yeah, that too.
The CG bullshit's to be seen. It's all like real.
Yeah, all of it's real. No CGI at all. Like, you know, I really like that.
Yeah,
all practical stuff.
Some green screens. That's about it.
Yeah, I only noticed that a couple of times.
Yeah, a couple, but yeah, I don't know.
It's a very tight narrative. I think maybe it could have been like 10 minutes shorter, maybe, but can't really complain too much. It's compelling enough that it, you know.
Yeah, I didn't really feel it sagging anywhere. Yeah, I think it flows really well.
There's other bits of reincorporation, like when he turns on the radio as he's kidnapping the psychiatrist, and it's like talking about the Florida Keys. And earlier when he tried to escape, the man next to the door was like, "Oh, you should go to the Florida Keys. It's lovely this time of year." Just like tiny bits of, yeah. I think reincorporation works particularly well in films where a character is trying to determine reality and is unsure of their own reality.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, well, what is this like an interpretation of something else? Is
Yeah. That Brad Pitt character really kept me going through the whole movie.
He's
like,
great.
Every time they cut to him, he's really great. And yeah, Bruce Willis is great. And yeah, it's just like all these characters, like you really care about them. You care about what's happening, and the story just makes sense. Yeah, it all just like ties into itself very, very well. It's very well thought out.
There's all sorts of like memorable bit characters that are only in like one or two scenes. Like the guy at the hotel or whatever who calls up inquiring about. They got all sorts of like memorable characters that are just briefly introduced alongside that core cast.
His relationship with the psychiatrist, and that kind of, you know, love interest angle that they're doing. As the film starts out, it feels really tropey. It feels like kind of like, oh, you're just checking a box on the list sort of thing. But by the end of it, it feels like, okay, well, you know, this is justified as its own existence. I love how her character transforms throughout the movie. I love how she starts going crazy. And not just like, oh, I'm questioning and I believe him sort of thing. Like that's been done before. But what makes it really fun to watch are those moments where she's like, take his money, like after he like knocks the guy out, like, we need cash.
Yeah, she goes crazy.
She's
right?
deteriorating.
Funny.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
it's such a great way for the character to go in the story.
Yeah, because it feeds into that character is she has like a presentation at a certain part. And I researched like what it was she was like talking about, and it's this Greek mythology Cassandra metaphor, which is just it relates to a person whose valid warnings or concerns are disbelieved by others. So there's like an irony to her preaching about this and then kind of joining onto this cause. And
right.
I love any time myth is injected in to any story like this.
And yeah, that's what Brad Pitt's character was kind of talking about earlier when he was like, people decide who the crazies are. You know, he was telling the story about the person who discovered germs.
Yeah.
It's like, there's these invisible things on us, man. They're making us sick.
Drop my burger on the ground. Yeah.
Who the real crazies.
Yeah. Very great movie. Visually, very well done. I love the wide angle lenses. Yeah, like you said, Terry Gilliam, that's like trademark of his. You know, visually very strong movie.
I love the soundtrack too. I'm not familiar with the composer, but it's not only catchy and memorable.
It's memorable. It's very memorable. It
helps the film flow. It adds to the emotional buildup without feeling like manipulative. It's not like a strong tone in either direction. It's kind of ambiguous, but like catchy and fun. And not overly fun, not overly emotional, but like somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's got a great rhythm to it. And the fact that they use accordion, like try to think of a single other movie theme that is successful and uses accordion. Like there's not a lot of incorporating that instrument into like a score of a film. It makes it feel really unique. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit mad.
Yeah,
With compliments, like a scene like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to look up the composer and see what else they've done, actually.
Have you guys seen anything about the short this was supposedly loosely based on?
La Jetée?
I haven't.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, there's a show that they made after.
Yeah.
But it said inspired by. I don't think it's really...
Yeah, I found it on Vimeo and kind of scrolled through some of it. Yeah, it seems interesting, but it does seem like 12 Monkeys was largely original for the most part. Like apparently Terry Gilliam didn't even watch it until he made the movie. So
Yeah.
So yeah, this composer, it's like maybe 10, 20 film scores through the 1990s.
yeah,
And then I guess not really a whole lot of them, but for this film it really worked. Like, damn.
yeah, very memorable.
I loved the theme. And it didn't feel overplayed. It played just enough times where it was like, yeah, I'm glad this is returning, you know. I'm like getting back into the groove here. It didn't feel spammed. And then the composition itself, it wasn't like overly simplistic to the point where it was just 3 notes like the Batman, where it's just like, like stop playing it. It was complemented the film very well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to imagine like this, and then the previous movie we talked about, and then like Pulp Fiction are all like released within the same like year and a half, basically, for Bruce Willis.
Yeah, he was on fire.
Very different movies. Yeah. I'd say Pulp Fiction's intentionally like not a very 90s movie. And then this is a very 90s movie to me. It's just like all the way it's told. And yeah, I do like that about it. And that is crazy about the ratings. It has an 8.0 on IMDb with 611,000. Like I had no idea it was like that.
Yeah.
Like loved, you know. And it got some Oscar noms too, which it deserved. Brad Pitt.
It's a classic. It's a classic, and it deserves to be a classic.
It's a cult classic. Cult classic.
Is it cult?
I don't know how well it did. Kind of. I don't know how well it did.
Let's see the box office.
Yeah, it's Bruce Willis and Brad Pitt led.
Yeah, Oscars.
Yeah, it's still like, well, 168 million. All right, it did fine, but compared to like movies today, I feel like that's like humble. No, like World War Z made $500 million. Like for Brad Pitt, this is like a small movie.
Wonder what the budget was. Apparently around $30 million.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, inflation or whatever, but that's probably like 50, 60 million today. Maybe
Yeah,
a little more, but yeah, that's good. And it looks really good. Like there's no CGI. It's barely any. And yeah, the sets are great.
The caliber of story and performances and all of those sets and the practical effects that they were doing, it's like, okay, yeah, you get some value out of that for sure. You definitely see where the money went.
Yeah, paying the people like Christopher Plummer. And
what is your favorite Bruce Willis performance?
this is up there.
Oh. I do really like him in this.
Probably Die Hard.
Die Hard's my favorite character that he plays, but I don't know if it's my favorite performance from him.
I don't know. This is definitely up there.
Because this is definitely up there. Yeah, I would have to be persuaded with another film to compare it to.
Yeah, it just stands out how different it is, especially from him. You know.
Yeah.
Like in Pulp Fiction, he's kind of like a strong guy. Die Hard, he's the strong macho guy.
Yeah, he fits the role of like a convict or whatever. Like he looks like a tough guy, but then they just they fling him around. They fling him around the whole movie, like gets beaten down.
He's like drooling.
You know, it's funny and it humbles him. Yeah, it humbles him a bit. Yeah, you like relate to him.
I like how they portrayed this character in terms of like writing, because we're told about his violent history, and he seems to have a good enough head on his shoulders that he's, he doesn't really act out violently for a while, but then when he's put in a situation where he has to defend himself with those what were they, gang members like underground, and he just kills them. He's just like just fucking wailing on them.
And that comes out in bursts.
It's such a satisfying way to finally get that element to finally get like, oh yeah, so he is fucking violent, and it's not really like an action movie.
No,
but it gets there in a satisfying way. It's like
It kind of is.
yeah, it is kind of, but
It's kind of a thriller. It's kind of a comedy. Like it isn't just one thing. It like balances all
got a
this,
lot
this
going
shit
for
like
it.
really well. Science fiction, yeah. And he does like die at the end. There is like this, he's the bad guy. He dies.
Mm-hmm.
Like okay, he like I guess gets some kind of like learn some kind of lesson or something. Like he doesn't get away with just being a bad guy, But he does like save the world or does something to save something.
No, I really like how they handle that whole the whole like dream aspect where you keep seeing the kid and you're unsure like where's this going, and it's like different each time he remembers the dream. There's like little details that are different, and then it comes full circle in the airport.
Yeah,
he watches himself die.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah,
he should have shot the kid.
What do you think about? Yeah, what do you think about the poster? Because I've always been put off by the poster, I got to admit. It's not one of my faves. Because I'd always see it like when scrolling through IMDb and be like, oh yeah, I'll skip that one. What is this, like Bruce Willis is like, what, a cyborg? He's got like a red like dot coming out.
Yeah, it does look kind of generic. Yeah, it's a generic mid-90s poster.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
Which I'm sure sold the film. But and the like joined faces.
And the way like Brad Pitt looks on it, you would never guess that his character is like a mental patient.
Yeah.
He just looks like Brad Pitt on other posters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a kind of a bad poster. I've never thought about that. He looks like a cyborg. You're right. What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't take away from me.
No, it doesn't take anything away from the movie.
It's like
but
it's just marketing material. Yeah. It's hard with posters.
Especially when like comparing it to Brazil's poster. I love Brazil's poster. So like elaborate and colorful.
I feel like a lot of posters are just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to make a good poster. It's hard to like capture that. Because a movie needs a poster, right? You need to have like some kind of image to like promote it, even if it's just a still frame from the movie with text. Like, you need some kind of poster. It needs to like communicate something.
Yeah, they could have done a better job with the design, but if it ever got a Criterion, we would see a better cover probably.
Yeah, Cyborg Willis.
Maybe.
Yeah.
This should have a Criterion.
Yeah, it'd be nice. They've got other Gilliam films on Criterion, Brazil and Time Bandits and
Fear and Loathing.
Fear Loathing, yeah. Oh, it'd be sick to have a Criterion Monty Python thing. That'd be dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they have the rights to certain ones. Yeah, I love Fear and Loathing too. I like all of his movies. So I like this.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty clear for me. Like, this is something I'm gonna like.
And I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. Not flawless, not completely flawless, but fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's existed for long enough, and it's a classic that deserves to have that status. It's a very enjoyable, well-crafted, compelling movie with plenty of elements to appreciate and love about it. A lot of very talented people.
Alex?
Yeah, I think I'm just a smidge under. Like, it's nearly there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a 4.5 star, 9 out of 10 for me. It's just, I really, really enjoyed revisiting it. How unconventional and strange the narrative is, but how it all like comes together at the end. I'm just going to reserve the Gilliam 10 out of 10 to be Brazil for me for now. We'll see though on rewatches because I'll watch this again. It's very good.
Mm-hmm. I have Brazil at a 5. I have Fear and Loathing at a 5. Yeah, I don't have any issues with this film really. The corniness is inherently part of the 90s aesthetic to me, and it helps the movie. It tells the story it needs to, like, very clearly. Like, I was never confused like I am with some other science fiction movies. Like, it's very clear. I would give it a 10 also. This is a classic for me. I gave it a 9 at first, and this is a 10. 10 out of 10, or 5 out of 5. So, dank. All right.
Bazinga.
Thanks, Gilliam.
Thanks,
Bazinga.
Gilliam.
Bye. Moving on. Yeah, we didn't have anything really bad to say about it, which is...
No,
that's good for, like... I think that's good.
Ambitious, and it works. Great story.
Fun, entertaining, really well made, great performances, like everything plot driven, great story and great visuals to complement it. Like it's not just one.
Yeah.
Like it's everything's working.
It's a nice example of like underplayed sci-fi as well.
Yeah.
When you think sci-fi, you think of 2001, your big like Star Wars, like space operas, but this is like a more quiet kind of intentional,
and
stranger.
It's not even like low budget indie, like it's not like Primer, it's like it's still
it's like a nice in between.
Yeah, it just is reserved and intelligent and respectful about what it's doing.
Yeah, it's one of those in between budget movies. Like it's not a big budget, it's not a $2 million movie either. It's like they don't really make movies like that anymore, or they're very rare.
I know.
Yeah.
And those are some of the best movies. Those like high concept, they have the money to do like these really impressive things. Yeah, it's really good story. And like I said, like it's science fiction, but it's also comedy, it's also action, thriller. Like it's just like so much going on in there. Like the mental asylum like element, like the first half hour. It's really great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'm glad we've done this like unofficial Bruce Willis kind of trilogy of episodes. It's kind of reminded me like what is so good about him, how that range he has, despite being that big draw action star. And like he made this film possible. Like it couldn't have come together.
Yeah, he sold it.
Yeah. Yeah. He needed to lead it.
Him and Pitt, more so him though.
Yeah. All right, question time.
Awesome. Let's do some questions from the Sardonicast community then. If you want to leave your own questions, head over to the suggestion thread on the subreddit and ask us whatever you feel like. Just like Pat X Reader did. It's going to start us off here. Have you guys heard of this Literally Me movies concept? Some people online have decided that any movie with a main character they identify with, generally loners disconnected from society, like 90% of movie protagonists, is in the same genre of Literally Me. So Drive and Amélie share a genre. Also American Psycho and Shrek, I guess. Any thoughts on this?
I don't think I've ever felt that way watching a character in a movie.
No.
Wait, what? Can you say it again? Like what?
I don't think so people project themselves onto characters and be like, this is like me. This is literally me. Even though, a lot of the times it's like I don't know how much I believe that when a person says that.
I project myself onto Blade. I'm not like a black guy. It's just like you like certain qualities, but like these qualities are like any guy on a poster, like any military man on a poster, like or whatever. Like when you see an action movie, like you want like a guy to like impose themselves on that character. Like, oh, I'm cool. I'm the one with the
Master Chief behind a helmet.
Yeah, Master Chief, right? Like that's perfect. But if they have a mask on, that's even better because like. That's like in video games, like you can customize your guy to look your way because you can make him look like you or someone you want to be. Like, I feel like that's such a part of like films. Not every film, but like certain kinds of films. If you're going for like a certain kind of vibe, like you want to be John Wick, you want to be like something like that. You don't want to be Steven Seagal. That's why those movies suck because it's like a fat old guy. Like you don't want to be him.
I think a lot of people wind up watching films and there are some like subtle qualities to characters, like Ryan Gosling and his stoicism and drive and, like I'm tough, but I'm moral and righteous and I do what's right and sort of thing. I think some people look at that and they're like, this is how I ideally have my principles and how I ideal version of myself. And so they go like, that's literally me as in, you might as well be your persona or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Skin Sona.
I'm more interested in this idea of people kind of misinterpreting like characters that are clearly like satire.
Yeah, that
like American Psycho is like a big one.
Yeah,
Christian Bale in that movie, and people kind of like adopting the aesthetic, and you see people like talking about it in a way where it's like, wait, do you understand like what the story was about, or do you just kind of think that it was genuinely like cool?
Yeah,
like it happened semi recently with the latest season of The Boys. Like there was like this whole like thing on the subreddit with fans like suddenly realizing what the comment like the really not subtle commentary was like pointing at, and for some reason in the halfway through the third season is when some people in the fan base started realizing, hey, this is making fun of a thing I might be a part of.
Yeah.
And then like started pushing back on it.
Wait a minute.
Which is just like, it's a nice reminder of like, I guess, yeah, there's a huge amount, a huge portion of people that enjoy movies, a huge part of the audience that genuinely have zero media literacy at all, and they just take everything literally at face value.
At face value, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not that you can't like want to dress up like characters like that or like them. Like people dress up like Darth Vader or bad guys, right? Like I don't think it's because they're murderers or whatever. It's because they think Darth Vader's cool, or I don't know. They think it's like kind of cool to be like a bad guy, which is fine. Yeah, I can agree with that.
But if there was someone who was like obsessed with dressing up as Homelander or something, I'd be a bit more suspicious maybe than like a Darth Vader fan. I don't know. Mm-hmm. The commentary just seems so much more like blatant.
Yeah. It's definitely certain characters where I'd be like, yeah, huh? You know, like Rorschach is like a popular dress up.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's not he's like an anti-hero, like, you know.
Well, every character is literally me because we are the universe experiencing itself, so.
Yeah, right.
Hey, that is a valid philosophical thought. Okay, I didn't just make that shit up. Okay, that is a perfectly. You don't dismiss that. That is that's a perspective thing. Even if I said it in stoner voice. Yeah. Next question.
Big C Baller has one for us. Adam once talked about how some child stars get used in films often when they aren't great actors, and eventually, when they grow up, they don't get roles and sometimes will have a very hard adult life. So my question is, what's something that the movie industry can do to prevent exploitation of child stars so their lives aren't ruined when they get older?
Hire them for their acting abilities. Maybe do a bit more of a casting process than they're like, they're cute and they're also a nephew of somebody I know. Like, because then you're kind of being an abusive asshole because you're setting themselves up. You're setting them up for failure.
Yeah,
you're
setting them up for. That's true. Yeah, you're supposed to be like the kind of, I don't know, the word gatekeeper of like, well, I'm gonna say this kid's a bad actor, but at least I get to say it and not like a million other people like Jake Lloyd or whatever, like with Star Wars. Like, you know, like for a movie like that, they should have gone. Yeah,
like that altered the trajectory of his life. Like, it almost single-handedly ruined his life being in that movie.
Yeah, it's the biggest. It's like obviously going to be a fucking huge movie. It's Star Wars. Like, they should have thought about that. Not Jake Lloyd himself. Yeah,
it ruins the lives of like adult actors, let alone when like kids that young are involved. You know, he was like, what, like 8?
Yeah, the guy who played Jar Jar too got all kinds of like, you know, hate and racism and whatever. Like, he's just an actor. Like, what the fuck? I mean, to some extent too. Like, people are assholes. Like, they shouldn't be saying things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't need to like harass the kid or the actor.
But it's hard enough for an adult to try and like deal with that kind of overwhelming feedback. But when it is a child, it is like, man, Georgie really didn't think about this one. It's kind of like it's abuse. It's like really fucked up.
It really is.
Yeah, or like a lot of those Disney stars, like Disney, they make them into actors and musicians and whatever. Like, I don't know if they're capable of doing all these things. Maybe they are, but like, you know, sometimes they're not. Like yeah.
I mean, it's a weird cultural thing where, you know, sometimes we turn children into like celebrities, and that's kind of just weird and creepy to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Like if you want to have child characters in a movie, I guess like we got to have child actors, but to like do the whole, you know, celebrity culture thing on them is like really kind of, you're creating a fucked up human being.
Yeah.
Is what you're doing. If they're not already fucked up, you're making them fucked up.
How are you supposed to be grounded if you're like Millie Bobby Brown, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
right.
The feedback you get and just the onslaught of like just bullshit and hatred.
Yeah. Can these people even like go to a restaurant or do anything? Like, You know, like how I do. Can they go to like McDonald's without being like, "Oh my god, you're really Bobby Brown"? Like, it's, you know, I just think about that. Probably not. They probably just can't even like function.
Depending on where.
I guess depending on where.
Yeah.
Well, like Brooklyn's kind of a cool place. Like, you know, you hear stories like Zoe Kravitz walking around or whatever. Like, no one bothers her because it's like a cool area. Or like the guy from Succession, Macaulay Culkin's brother. I forgot his name.
Kinnear.
But yeah, like there's no, and they're adults too, right? But there's definitely like cool environments like where people aren't like that. But you know, there's just a lot of people who are just like, oh my god, you're Lily Bobby Brown or whatever. And, you know, like if I get that, I don't get it as often, so it's much less like stressful to deal with. But I'm sure like
Kieran Culkin, that was his name. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm sure if you're like a super famous like Miley Cyrus or someone like that, like I'm sure you can't go anywhere.
No.
You can't do anything that like normal people do, like go to a store or like go to like as like go to get, like fast food or like, you know, it's just normal shit. Like go to 7-Eleven, like get shit, like pick up a case of beer. Like you can't do anything. Yeah,
celebrity culture is just like so obnoxious, honestly.
Yeah,
it is obnoxious. Yeah,
like there's a big difference between like respecting someone for their work and just, you know, trying to
hero worship,
to convince yourself that you have done something in the universe and that you're not insignificant because you saw someone that's famous, right? At Toronto Film Festival, there's like people go for different reasons. I'm there for the movies, but there's so many people that are there to just be like, I got, you know, like to smooze with like the big actors, or there's people there's the red carpet thing outside of some of the theaters, like one of the big theaters where they have like the fancy premium premieres or whatever, and they have the red carpet set up, and there's people just like with lawn chairs behind the barricade ready to take pictures, like not professionals, but like just people who are just gawking at celebrities. They don't even know who's coming out of the limo, but they're ready. They're like, I want to get a signature by any famous person, and it's like, do you respect their craft? Like, do you like them? Like, it's just they're famous. Like, it's just kind of annoying.
Oh, it's very annoying.
Yeah,
I've never understood that.
It's this weird like soft deification of human beings that we've done.
Yeah, it's toxic.
Yeah,
it's bad.
Not much good comes from it.
Yeah. And then and then inevitably we see the same thing like being applied to children. It's like, okay, stop that. You know, just stop.
Because like, whenever there's a kid in a movie, it's already like an uphill battle to like prove and earn like the place in the story and like justify the performance and everything. Like, just trying to avoid it for the most part.
Yeah.
Depends on how you use kids in movies and what kind of story you want to tell, but yeah, just sometimes seems inevitable to...
I feel there are, like, celebrities. I don't mind celebrity, but I feel like there's certain people who are celebrities and they want to be celebrities, and that's, like, their whole MO, and that's why they're fine.
Yeah.
Like, Tom Cruise is a celebrity. Like, I don't feel bad giving him attention. He clearly must want it, or like the financial gains from it.
Or like The Rock, or someone like that.
The Rock. Yeah. So people like that.
But then there's people like Beyonce that like never do any interviews and are always like so reclusive, but that adds to the mystique and that adds to the allure. And then people treat her like a real god, and people get even more obsessed with it because she's out of the spotlight, that anytime someone sees her, they're like, ah! It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, you can't really win in that position.
No.
From that perspective, anyway.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, just cancel yourself. Post a funny tweet.
It's a hard thing to balance. Yeah. It's a hard thing to balance. That's part of like a musician's appeals, like mystique or like your character. But yeah, it's not an excuse to like be like a unrealistic like human being, or like be like so out of touch with like other people. Yeah. Well, she just like hides for like a year or whatever.
Yeah,
that's what she does. I don't even know. Like I don't know what Beyonce does. She's not on my radar. Like, yeah, it's just like a certain audience, they like that. I don't know. I'm not inherently against like celebrity. I am mostly with like child stars because it's just like it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy for them.
I'm not against like people being in magazines or on television, or more people seeing or consuming a product because someone's associated with it. I'm not against that, but people need to like...
Yeah, that's like
lower, just like calm things down a bit and remember that these are just other human beings. Like they're people.
Yeah.
They're people.
It's just like marketing. Yeah.
They're not gods.
Like, oh, this is the new star. Yeah. I don't like think about Tom Cruise like all the time. Like if I see him on a poster, I'm like, oh, it's a new Tom Cruise movie. I'm going to see it.
Yeah.
That looks good. I'm not like obsessed with Tom Cruise. I have like a cork board of his photos and like calling him every day or whatever. Yeah. But I don't feel most people are that way. I feel like if you're that way, you have some kind of problem you need to work out yourself. Like,
yeah.
It's not always just like the celebrity and their fault.
There's something about like film and TV. It's just always boiled down into this emphasis on the actors specifically.
Yeah.
It's always about the actors. Like you sell movies on actors.
They're the ones you see, and it's like, it's almost like this godlike position. Like, oh, I want to be the guy on TV. But, you know, like, if people stopped treating celebrities like they were such fucking gods, like, maybe you actually have a chance of being on TV. Because you just, you know, you're a more realistic person. You'd be like, oh, like, you could actually get hired in a part. And you're not just, like, inflating this other guy and, like, having him take parts away from you. And, it's just, like, silly to, like, idolize people like that. To, like, an unrealistic, unhealthy degree. To some degree, sure. To like a little bit, like there's nothing wrong with looking up to people.
To respect and admire someone whose art you love.
Yeah, for inspiration for their craft.
Whether that's art is acting or writing or whatever. There's nothing wrong with praising for things that you connect with and things that you appreciate. But like, fuck, are you like when people like steal their like little bits of clothing off of people at like in concerts or whatever, they like they're like, oh, I got it, like like
cut off a bit of hair or something.
Like just the crazy people.
That's like shit like Elvis did. Yeah, that's like shit from like the 60s. Yeah, it's like so dated.
Just stop screaming.
Women ripping off clothes and taking his scarves and I'm excited for that new Elvis movie. I feel like that's part of what that movie's about.
Isn't that out already?
It is. I got to see it soon. I've just been so busy.
Oh, yeah. So
I won't be.
I feel like that's like part of that movie. Is like, you know, Elvis is like, he is, you know, he's Elvis. He's like such a character.
The king.
Yeah.
Yeah, people did that with Michael Jackson to a huge degree too.
People just like screaming. People were screaming when he came and like trying to take like stuff off his body, like his clothes, and like fucking wild. Like I can't imagine being that person.
Yeah.
And what it must take to like, you know, society wise and like culture and like the kind of like marketing to like create that. Like I don't even think that's possible anymore. And it's just like this guy like fucking gyrating his hips. Like it's so odd. Yeah.
All right, last question.
Okay, let's end on this one from Pink Eye 5. Back in the fall, Adam mentioned he was watching The Sopranos for the first time. Curious if you finished it and what you thought of it. If you didn't finish it, how come? And shout out to Tony, was it Sirico? He passed away the other day.
Yeah, rest in peace. Such a good actor in that show.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Very funny.
How far did you get?
I got to probably season 2, episode 5 or something, and I might continue it at some point. I'm just like, it's not something that I feel like super compelled to watch a lot. I don't know. Like it's good.
Okay.
It's good, and I've seen parts of like near the end of the show that I'm like, wow, this is super interesting. Like, I'm really interested in this. But like in the first couple seasons, as it's like building up to that level of quality, I just like, I wasn't really, it felt like kind of a obligation at points. I'll get back to it. But yeah, I
just kind of build as it goes along.
Yeah.
I was kind of more in towards the end of season 1 personally. And then I was kind of hooked.
Season 1's great. Yeah. I feel like it's probably like the strongest season, like self-contained. It has like a good beginning, middle, end.
Yeah.
A lot of the seasons fall in like the same kind of like structure where there's a villain that Tony has to like defeat by the end, and usually there's like a subversion. Like it doesn't always play out the same way.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it's a very well written show. Like, if you don't like it or whatever, then that's fine. Maybe you shouldn't watch it. But, like, that's like the best show ever made, basically. Like, in my opinion, like even better than Breaking Bad, probably.
The writing's immense. The
and it's not really plot driven like Breaking Bad either. Like, it's not like so rigidly like this episode is purposeful because this happens and it's leading to this. Like, every episode's like its own thing, and it's more like character focused and like don't expect it to go anywhere. But
well, there's there's certain things that carry through, but
some things go somewhere. But they're more like self-contained in seasons. Aside from like certain things, some things are like grand arcs over the show, like his therapy and certain characters. Yeah, like the stuff with his wife.
Yeah, I like that angle a lot. I think that's
the compelling. Therapy angle's great.
I started watching it because that Many Saints of Newark movie or whatever was coming out. And then I didn't finish Sopranos in time, and then everybody just seemed to have really lukewarm opinions on it, and so I just kind of gave up. I was like, I'm not watching this movie anyway, so I just...
Yeah,
it's a big, it's a lot of hours, and I'm trying to watch a lot of things, so... but yeah, I like the show. I'll get back to it at some point. I'm sure. Just gotta make a commitment.
Yeah.
It does get really good, like, later on when Tony's, like, really dealing with, like, the big mob guys, like the head of New Jersey and those guys. Like, those scenes are really great. Yeah.
And just how, like, it's like the end days of the mob kind of, like, just dismantling and, like, just technology just fucking them over. And
right.
Clearly, like, like Red Dead and stuff is, like, really inspired by that kind of concept. The end of an era of some kind of, like, crime angle.
Oh, okay. I need to get that Sopranos game now.
Oh yeah, PS2.
That's probably on Xbox, right?
Oh yeah,
it's probably on Xbox. I definitely
wasn't it supposed to be okay, or was it? I can't remember if it was notoriously weirdly good or bad.
Gandolfini is in it, which makes me that one makes me want to play it.
I'll play it.
Oh yeah.
Road to Respect. Oh, it's on the 360, I think.
What?
Okay. Definitely gonna.
Cool.
Nice.
Maybe not. Maybe it's only on PS2.
The Wikipedia usually has just the list of which platforms it's available. Let's see.
Only PlayStation 2, it says. Well, I can emulate it, and I have a PS2 also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
All right.
Sopranos is great.
Yeah, I will.
Right,
I will
thanks.
continue it at some point.
Oh, yeah.
I was enjoying it. I just other things got in the way. All right. Thank you very much. That does it for questions. Ralph, it's time.
It's my turn. Yeah.
Ralph.
All right. I'm gonna recommend a film from 1995 called Heat, directed by Michael Mann.
Shit, yeah. Fuck.
Oh, cool.
There's a 4K for that too. Do I have it yet? How quickly can I order it?
Oh, I'll get that. Fuck yeah.
Let's see. Will it show up in time? Oh shit! Is it not out? Fuck! It comes out in August.
Fuck.
God damn it!
Oh well.
No. Sorry.
You want me to recommend something else? I mean, yeah, it's whatever. You'll like it. You'll watch it again one day in 4K.
Yeah, I'll buy the regular Blu-ray first.
Yeah.
But yeah, good. Okay, yeah. This was on my list of things to watch. So
yeah, mine too. Awesome.
Yeah.
Or you can download it and get the 4K Blu-ray later.
Oh, just a question. It says that there's a definitive director's cut edition, director's definitive edition.
I've never seen that.
Oh, okay.
That I'm looking at that I can order to my place. Let's see if there's a difference in runtime.
I see here.
Alternate versions. Comparison theatrical.
I would say watch the original one just because it's very long.
I just want to know what the difference is.
Yeah. I mean, I'll check out the director's one. I'll check it out because I've seen Heat. But I'd recommend the original just because it's such a long movie. Like, I don't think you need to spend any more time on it than that. But if you're, do what you want. I'll definitely watch the director's one now that I know.
It's 7 minutes difference.
Oh, really? Oh, so that's nothing.
Okay, not too much. Yeah.
Okay, I'll still watch it anyway. Because I don't own it. So
yeah. Okay.
All right, cool.
Well, whichever one is going to get shipped to me in time, I'll buy.
All right.
Okay. Perfect. If you don't want to be spoiled by, for Heat, 1995, I think directed by Michael Mann.
Yeah, Michael Mann.
Then watch it before the next episode. These episodes come out every 2 weeks, but you can listen to them early as they're edited. Go to sardonicast.com, sign up for premium. It's only $2 a month, or patreon.com/sardonicast. Also, we got merch. Also, fan art, draw it and post it on Twitter using the hashtag Sardonicast fan art, or post it on our subreddit, and you'll see them appear at the beginning of the YouTube videos. We are recording this episode and the next one fairly early, so if you hear us, if there's some crazy thing that happens that you want us to talk about and we didn't, then just wait for episode 119, I guess, because that's when we'll be back in the normal groove of things for a short bit. All right, thank you for listening, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Shrek.